Hey, hey, hey. Hey, y'all. Nicole Roberts Jones here, and welcome to another episode of the Meaningful Work Podcast. Not going to tell you I'm already excited out of the gate, in addition to, I always am dancing when I hear that song. But today I got a special somebody. And before I start going in on her, let me ask you a question. What if you had the career you've always dreamed of, but you could feel God shifting you to do something completely different? Would you be able to embrace the unknown and go after it? Well, that's exactly what today's guest did. Her name is TeeJ Mercer. Now, listen, TeeJ, affectionately known as the walking exclamation point, you'll see why in a minute, a Howard University alumni, and a Hollywood storytelling veteran with nearly 3 decades of experience on hits like Extra, The Tonight Show, The Bachelor, and blockbuster films. And she let all of that go. She let all of that go and left it to do the work she's doing now through the Move-In Day Mafia. We'll hear more about that in a few minutes. Matter of fact, TeeJ made headlines when she raised and gave away over $1 million in cash and prizes to 2020 HBCU graduates. She is somebody that lives to be somebody's answered prayer, changing lives through faith, audacity, resilience, and generosity. So please help me welcome the founder of the Move-In Day Mafia, award-winning author, TEDx speaker, domestic violence survivor, and creator of the League of Extraordinary Water Walkers, Miss TeeJ Mercer. Hey.
Hey, Nicole.
Now y'all see why I have so much energy already, right? Hey, girl. Hey, I'm so excited. So excited to have this conversation with you. Now, before we get going in, tell everybody. Now you guys see Move-In Day Mafia, and yes, let me say it out of the gate. Those of you that want to support it, you can. We'll tell you how to do that at the end. So tell them about how you got started, what it is, and all the things before we start going in.
So, as you said in the opening, I had just moved to Atlanta when the lockdown hit, right? And being a person that always brings people together, I know one thing for sure and one thing for certain is God created me to bring joy. So in a way of looking for how to do that, I created this virtual bingo game that took off. We played every Saturday in June for several months, gave away almost $10,000 because people were donating. And then right around, I guess about April, we started seeing that graduations were getting canceled. And so being a graduate, an insufferable, obnoxious graduate of the Howard University, I was especially feeling the pain of the HBCU grads who now would not have that pinnacle experience for them crawling to the finish line in many cases. So we pivoted the regular bingo into HBCU bingo, which is where we gave away the $1 million in cash and prizes. Because that made national media, different outlets were reaching out to me, and they actually wanted a student to talk about her experience of playing with us during that window. And when I overheard her story, she mentioned that she was a student who was aging out of foster care when she first went to her HBCU, and her social worker drove up to the campus, pulled up to the curb, let her unload what little she had, and then just left her. And until that point, Nicole, I had never thought about this population of students. What happens to them? Because that was not my move-in experience at Howard.
Right.
And so I went to God like, I don't know what I'm asking, what this can look like, but we need to help, so that no student has to make this transition alone. And Move-In Day Mafia was born. So the definition of who we are, I like to say that we are a mob of volunteers who descend upon HBCU campuses to move in students who have either aged out of foster care or unhoused or grappling with financial hardships. But we don't just stop there. We don't just move them in and be like, okay, we'll figure out the rest on your own. Every month, we provide them care packages. They have Mafia mentors. We end up being a surrogate family, if you will. And actually, right before this interview, I was in a Mafia crisis. We are there to be their family, to either be that big sister, that aunt, to help them navigate what is happening in their lives. And
Right.
to date, we have moved in 109 students at 28 HBCUs since
Wow.
2020.
That's great. So great. So great. So look, if I had the applied noise, I would put that on. So here's what I would love for you to share because it sounds great, y'all, now on this side.
Yeah.
But to go from a lucrative career again, 3
Mhm.
decades. So it wasn't a 5-minute career, right? And working on some of the biggest names of TV, film, some of the biggest stars. I can go on and on. To go
Mhm.
from that to now this small idea, and it's not small now, but I want you to get when it starts a seed. How
Mhm.
did you say yes to that in the face of uncertainty, like not even knowing that it was going to work out?
So that's a layered question in that there was a lot of stuff that happened before we got to move in day mafia, but it did start with one day God saying, "You're done.
Wait, come on,
You're
stop.
gonna."
Wait, let's stop right there because somebody, God has been saying that to you, and you keep
Mhm.
going to that job, keep staying in that relationship, keep doing the same thing, and it's been over. Okay, sorry, just go
It
ahead.
was, I didn't think it was over, it was a struggle. It wasn't, I immediately got some get right. I asked for sign after sign after sign after sign. What do you mean I'm done? Because being in television, that was the only thing I'd ever wanted to do since I majored at Howard. And so to
Yeah.
be living this dream career, I graduated in May. I was in Hollywood by June, and my career just kind of took off. And so, it wasn't like I was miserable. I had a revelation last week that I've never had a job, fortunately, that I hated. Every job I've had since I was 16, I've enjoyed. And so it was one of those things like, what do you mean? This is what I've worked so hard for. We're done? Like, what does
Mm,
done even mean? And what do you mean? What am I supposed to do after? And here's the thing though, when God tells you to do something, he ain't gonna necessarily tell you what's the plan.
okay.
So my faith and my desire to be obedient had to far outweigh my comfort zone and my need for answers. I knew the way he said it to me was that if I did not leave that career, take the leap, and trust him, things would not go well for me. And so I left the business, and for months, Wells Fargo kept sending me their requests for the mortgage, and there was no income coming in. And
Hmm.
then one day, it just dawned on me, it started clicking that I have all of this, knowledge of working behind the scenes of television. Maybe that's useful, for someone. So I started a company called Media Mavericks Academy, and that's where I taught authors, experts, coaches, and entrepreneurs how to book themselves in the media without a publicist and without being a celebrity. God allowed me to do that. I loved that for several years. And one day he said, "Okay, you're done." Dude, what? Not only that, Nicole, he said, "You're done, and I'm moving you out of LA."
Hello.
What? Why? I love LA. Like, I love my whole adult life has been spent here. Go where? And he said, "Atlanta." Why? I don't like, I'm from the South. I'm born and raised in Tennessee. I love coming to the South and taking my butt back to LA. And I finally, after praying sign after sign after sign after sign, and God was like, "This is the date. You're going to be out of here." My house sold in 6 days,
Wow.
over asking. I didn't even get to list the house good before there was people offering to buy it.
Mm,
Made a nice profit off of it, and everything just seem to be clicking until
mm,
I
mm,
got to Atlanta the beginning of March. A week later, we were on lockdown.
mm.
I was some kind of hot
Wow.
because I
I
was
was thinking
like,
that you moved in the middle of lockdown. I didn't realize it was before lockdown. Oh
no.
my God.
I think I got here on a Tuesday. We were locked down by that weekend. And
Wow.
I'm hot.
Mm.
Like, you're God. So you knew this was coming.
And let me interrupt you because the thing that I'm getting I'm trying to maintain my excitement, y'all, because now I know another side what happened. And
Mhm.
she and I are like, we go through things. This is my prayer partner to call, like, girl, I just need you for 5 minutes, right? I might not talk to her for 2 years, and then we have a 5 minute prayer. So
Mhm.
the thing I love about this journey is I want you guys to get this as you're listening, how God matriculates you, right?
Mhm.
You guys, those of you that have been here, you hear me talk about this all the time. We know how we matriculate through education, but purpose, we don't know. God does his best work in uncertainty. All we can do oftentimes when he's getting ready to drum up something, what's it, abundantly above all you could ask or think, all you
Mhm.
could do is trust him in the middle of it. And so I'm hoping you're hearing, as TJ is sharing her story, all the layers of trust. So left entertainment, had to trust that. Didn't know what she was going to do. And then all of a sudden, plunk, okay, let's start Media Mavericks. Did that.
Mhm.
Then, oh, that's over too. Now you're in this pause again. Now, again,
Yep.
it's matriculating. And let me just say this, because you know my story too, TJ. But
Mhm.
you guys have heard me. Listen, she and I have entertainment in common. The thing that I love that you just said is your gift for editing and production. What are you doing now, editing and production? You're doing the same thing in a different arena.
Same thing. It
So
definitely
casting,
has prepared me
right.
uh for what I do now. I can see the storyteller in me is what
Mhm.
brings, Best Buy to the table. Amazon is
Yes.
one of our partners. Cisco is one of our partners. Just had a meeting with Microsoft the other day.
Mhm.
So everything definitely has been built, stair steps.
Right.
Nothing has been wasted. And so I was saying that, and me thinking, God, you knew this was gonna happen. You could have left me in LA to ride this thing out with my friends.
Yeah.
Likewise, God, you knew this was gonna happen, and you pulled me out of LA so that I couldn't be with my friends. So there's something you want to do through me or with me in this isolation.
Come on.
Had I not shifted that train of thought, I probably would have still been mad. So one of the first things that I did was I looked at who was complaining and who was suffering. And I don't mean complaining in a bad sense. So let me just correct that. But I was watching parents freak out and get frustrated. And I was like,
Mhm.
well, what can I do? What's in my hands? Like my first TED talk is called Use What's in Your Hands. And it's about this experience. So I'm looking at what's in my hands. I'm a storyteller. I know this. So what I started doing is I created story time with Auntie TeeJ, where I would go live Monday through Friday, and I would just sit there and read to kids. I
Mm.
destroyed Dr. Seuss. If you have never read Fox and Socks live, like the first day that I did that, it was hilarious because I didn't practice beforehand. But then I started getting messages from parents who were thanking me for just going live and occupying their kiddos for 30 minutes where they can go take a shower or they're going to go take,
Mhm.
and so that became a thing. And then we started the bingo where we started playing every night. And so I started realizing, okay, God pulled me out of LA for such a time as this.
Mm.
This is my assignment. And so when I look back, I get right real fast now because I have enough receipts of seeing,
Mm.
okay, God, okay, yes, long as I confirm, it ain't gonna take me long to move now.
Right.
It really has become more of a ludicrous moment. When God move, I move just
Just
like
like
that.
that. Right.
So, I know what I wanted to say to people listening. If you've ever stretched before, like you do exercise and you stretch, I like to describe this faith journey like this. If you've ever stretched, you hit a point where you can't go any further, but you hold that stretch and you just start breathing through it,
Mm.
exhaling, inhaling. Then you'll notice, oh, it don't hurt as much.
Mm.
So then let me go deeper into the stretch. You hit that same point. I can't go any further, but you just stay there and you lean into it, breathe into it. And then you're like, okay, I don't feel this stretch anymore. Then you stretch some more. That to me is the faith journey. God is
Hmm.
not going to actually come through and just, take you 10 steps beyond what your belief is. He will actually manage the faith that you have, let you stretch, get used to that, and then you'll get to the point where you make it leaps and bounds because God has shown himself to be faithful, and you've shown yourself to be obedient, so he can keep stretching you.
So I love that stretch analogy. I love it because number one, it's visual. But number two, I think when we move a little further and we can allow ourselves that moment to stretch is where God does his greatest work. So I
Mhm.
would love to hear, maybe one habit or mindset, right? Now we know faith, but what's one habit or mindset that you might suggest to some of the listeners that they're in the place right now where they know they're in an uncertain place, whether they know it's time to make a job change, maybe it's time to start something, a business, write a book, whatever that is.
Mhm.
What one shift in mindset or what have you would you recommend that they need to embrace to do that?
This ain't deep for me. I'm real practical. I
Mhm.
got real comfortable reminding God of how he built me.
Mm,
He he didn't mind me asking for signs because it wasn't a indication of my lack of faith. It was an indication of I just want to be sure I ain't talking to myself. you know, So my mindset is God is okay with me asking for signs. And
mm.
so I'll just go to him like, okay. Now he has gotten sick of me. And basically I've heard him say, all right, little girl, you ain't getting no more signs. You either gonna move or you gonna regret it. And then I'll
Hello.
get right. But for me, my mindset is I have a great relationship with my mom. It's the
Mm,
closest thing that I can see to how God would love me because of
mm,
how she loves me. And my mother would not be upset about me asking questions. My mother would not be upset with me just getting clarification because she knows her kid.
right.
Like we have a running joke with my mom. If my mother wants me to do anything manual, whether it's load the dishwasher, load the washing machine, wash the dishes, vacuum the floor, she can't tell me that and expect me to immediately do it.
Hmm.
She knows she's got to give me time to go sit on the toilet and just think about, okay, when I get up, I got to go do this. She
Mhm.
knows her child. Why wouldn't God do? He knows he wired me. My baby is going to do it. She just needs time to process it.
Right.
Once I settled on that and him not being afraid of not ever asking, you don't question God, because I'm a preacher's kid. We grew up in that mentality. I question God all the time. If he can't handle my little old questions, then he ain't got no nerve being the God of my life. So
Hmm.
I would have to say that my practical mindset set shift had to be I just got comfortable being me with God.
Hmm. So if I had to answer that, I would answer it altogether different.
Mhm.
I think for me, because I'm someone that you know this, you give me something to do, I'm off running, going to do it. I'm gonna make up strategy and I'm doing it.
Mhm.
And what I've had to realize, so at the end of 2024, when first of all, I didn't realize God was trying to tell me it was a shift because I was so busy being busy. I knew that things were changing, so I kept trying to figure out what I thought the shift was. Okay, instead of me
Ah.
sitting all the way still, I kept saying, "Okay, I know you're telling me, Lord, to do more corporate work, so I'm gonna go and do." And I was figuring it out. Oh, I know you're telling me to go back in churches, so I'm gonna go. So I kept doing stuff, right? Instead of saying God gives you one step and saying, okay, now give me the next step, Lord. Now I'm gonna tell you the way God got to me, and I'm gonna tell you how the mindset I've had to shift, right? Is I had surgery at the end of 2024. Now I'm not someone that's ever sick. I ain't had many surgeries in my lifetime, but I promise you, I felt like between 2022 and 2024, I had so many surgeries. The
Mhm.
last one, God set me all the way down. Like I couldn't do anything. Like my husband wouldn't even gonna let me have my computer in my lap. Had he not been
Mhm.
here, I probably would have been cheating and trying to work. But God set me completely down, and it was in that silence. Now, mind you, I spend time with God every day. But it was when I
Mm-hmm.
was doing absolutely nothing, no work, no
Mm-hmm.
meetings, no emails, no nothing, that I finally heard. And the reason I'm
Mm-hmm.
sharing that is because for me, my obedience comes in knowing not what to do, meaning that sit your butt down somewhere until you have the full direction, not a little piece of the direction. My problem is God give me a little piece and I run with it. Like,
Wow.
can I get the whole? I need the whole thing, right? So
Mm-hmm.
for you, you ask questions. For me, I need to ask more questions and sit down, right? So the reason I'm sharing that is because those of you that are listening, I want you to get clear on where you are in your trajectory. Maybe you're like TJ, you ask questions. Maybe like me, and you don't ask none, right? But I need to learn how to sit down and wait. That's my
Mm-hmm.
problem. I don't like to wait for nothing. I'm spoiled too. And I don't like to wait for nothing. My husband always says, well, who gonna wash your car? Did I marry you? Uh-huh. You gonna wash my car. I don't wait for nothing. I have no patience, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I know that in this season of my own journey, God is really, really working on my patience.
So what made that makes me think about, and maybe this is where it really shifted for me, is the common scripture we quote all the time, Jeremiah 29:11. I know the plans I have for you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if he knows the plan,
Come on.
why am I not just sticking close to him? He
Hello.
knows the plan. And I remember when that scripture shifted a little to me of going, well, wait a minute, why am I going to be over here trying to figure all of this stuff out when scripture says he knows the plan?
Mm,
Okay, if somebody tell me they got the plan, I don't want to be over here trying to reinvent the wheel. Let me just go straight to the plan maker.
right.
I
And
think that's where it kind of changed for me when I started looking at that scripture a little
mm-hmm.
different. Like, let me
Yeah.
spend time with him. Let me really make God my CEO and I'm the COO. Let me go execute the vision he is given to me. And I
Yeah.
think if more people wanted to spend more time with him because he's holding the plan, he's holding the strategy. I have never worked corporate a day in my life. So now being the CEO of a nonprofit where it's corporate, we gotta, I always say I gotta get on the pole to raise this money, and it's like it's all these moving parts of compliance and all of that. If I didn't have the plan and the strategy from him,
Mm-hmm.
we would not have seen the growth we have seen in 3 years. People are blown away by how much we have accomplished. Multi-billion-dollar companies came knocking for us. I didn't go knocking for them. And
Right.
I tell them point blank, listen, I'm learning, I'm growing. I don't know what's possible. I don't even know what I can ask you for. Will you help me? I'm very humble when it comes to doing this, but because that is the strategy that God gave me. Just be
Right.
honest. People want to help these kids.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
if you want to know the strategy and the plan, get it from the plan maker.
Come on. And sit still long enough to get it. Hello. My problem
Mhm.
is, listen, y'all. So funny. I was just talking to my pastor about this yesterday. He said, your problem is, and he said it. He said it to me. He said, you get this much and you run with it. He said, which, if you were on my team, I would love that. But sometimes this much is not all God has to say. He has a comma where you put a period.
Right.
And I'm ready. Okay, Lord, you said what? Okay, but I'm running because and then I'm gonna figure out how to interpret it instead of again getting the plan from the plan maker who had the
Yeah.
plan before I was born, who already
Hmm.
knows how the end from the beginning. If I would just sit down and let the end happen on its
Play
own.
out.
So as we're into this, girl, I can't believe 30 minutes is almost up already. Listen. I want you to tell folks about now. I love what you're doing through Movie and Mafia. I watch everything. I love it. And I
Mhm.
want you to tell folks that are saying, hey, I want to be a part. Hey, how do I help? Tell them how do they help or what ways can they help support what you're doing.
Well, the easiest thing is to donate, obviously, moveindamafia.org. Because, like I said, we don't just move them in, we walk with these kids for 4 years. So they need stuff because kids are expensive. So they
Hello.
need detergent, deodorant, shampoo. They need that every single month. So the other way to help is doing the the 14th and the 21st of every month, we do what's called the Adopt a Scholar Week. That's where we've taken their essential needs that they have submitted because it's non-negotiable for us. They get to choose what they are asking for. We don't just give them and say, hey, be grateful that we're helping. They fill out their own forms. We take that and compile it into Amazon wish list. And then the 14th through the 21st, you can go select any school that is on our list and purchase off of that wish list. We also need volunteers during move-in season as well as during the off season, because there's still, we need to scale. We need corporate outreach. We need mentors. If you want to be a Mafia mentor, we need every kind of skill set. So all of that, you can start over at movingdaymafia.org. And lastly, it just hit me, is that we need introductions into different companies that have perhaps the Black ERGs, the employee resource groups, that let me present to them Mafia so that we can start, just creating a whole family around them. So we need intro, we need referrals. This year for 2026, I'm really praying for an airline sponsor, a hotel sponsor, as well as a rental car sponsor, and Uber and Lyft as well for the students. So everything though starts over at moveindaymafia.org. If you think you're going to forget and you want to be a part of the Adopt a Scholar Week, go over to moveindaymafia.org/adopt a scholar, and you can join the mailing list to be notified when we drop the wish list.
So good, so many ways. So listen, if you are a corporate executive and you know your company will support, whether it's money or items, either way, reach out to TeeJ via the website and do connections, right? And if you don't know how to reach out to her, reach out to me. I'll find a way to connect her. Tell me what you need. We will get connected. So with that, TeeJ, as we're into this conversation, such rich conversation, such a light. Listen, and let me tell you, TeeJ can talk, so I know you dying that I'm about to end this, right? So plus, listen, I want to have my time with her at the end of this, so that's another reason why I'm ending it. So with that said, is there anything that you didn't get to say that you want to end this episode with?
Actually, I think for me is I love seeing people go after their dreams. And I love seeing dreams come true. I love participating in making dreams come true. There's nothing that brings me more joy than surprises. But what I've also noticed with my faith people, my water walkers, as I like to call them, is you got to get out the boat. Oof. We know the story of Peter because Peter had the unmitigated gall to see Jesus walk on water and say, well, I want to try that too. So I teach this series called the ABCs of Audacity. A, I'll give you the first three letters of the alphabet. A is ask. Peter asked God for what he wanted. Mm-hmm. The rest of the disciples, they stayed in the boat. B is believe for what you're asking for. Peter showed his belief not by hesitating, but by getting out the boat. Jesus said, yes, Peter got out the boat. He didn't go practice on how to moonwalk. He didn't he just got out and tried. Mm-hmm. Scripture tells us that he took a few steps and started sinking. But he took a few steps. Who else in history has done that?
Right.
I bet you cannot convince me that after Peter saw it was possible, that Peter didn't bug the crap out of Jesus every free moment. Jesus, can we go practice me walking on water? Like, I can totally see Peter. My mind conceives Peter out practicing because he saw what was possible after the first 2-3 steps before he started sinking. And the C is collaborate. I hate the term self-made because anything done great, you didn't do it by yourself. You had to collaborate. Peter got his wish because he was willing to collaborate with Jesus. We are not meant to be alone. I think there's a Ecclesiastes somewhere talks about two are better than one. We are not
Mhm.
meant to build alone. I haven't done anything that I've done, the miracles that I walk in. We didn't even talk about the miracles of Move-In Day Mafia, but
Right.
none of it was done in a vacuum by myself. It was because I was willing to collaborate. So ask, believe, collaborate. That's what I'll leave you with.
Dropping the mic. So thank you because listen, how I know you is I asked, I believe, and we collaborated. That's a whole episode by itself, right? But literally, at a time where I first started hearing God's voice, and I'm not getting into it
Mhm.
because it will go on another half hour. And
Right.
God was like, "It's TeeJ." I was like, "Okay, I think I'm hearing things, but I'm gonna call." And I never forget TeeJ when I called. She was like, "No, no," because
Mhm.
she had God said something to her exact moment. He said something to me, and I called.
Right.
And we collaborated in that moment. And our
Yeah.
relationship started in that moment. I barely knew her, by the way, y'all. Okay.
Right.
So I want you to understand that it will take you being a water walker, I'm using all her stuff, to
Mhm.
go out and become the version of you that you have not yet become. There's a version of you that God has waiting for you. And so
Yeah.
thank you, TeeJ, for showing us what it's like to be audacious, for having the audacity, for being, listen, a faithful steward, a soldier in the army, as my grandmother would say. Thank you for being a friend in journey. And just know that I'm proud of you and cheerleading you all along the way. Love you, girl.
Likewise.
Love you, girl.
Bye, y'all.
So that's it for this episode. I keep talking to her. Listen, I want to know what your takeaways are. Where are you playing it safe, sitting in comfort, and God is trying to lure you out into the next level that He has waiting for you? Listen, God doesn't ever want us to settle. And y'all know I don't do average. So when will you become that extraordinary version of you? I want to hear about it in the comments. Even if TeeJ stepped on your toes, I want to hear that too. And then share this episode because you never know who needs this exact conversation. All right. So with that, thank you for joining us for this episode. I'll see you for the next one. Bye, y'all.